Hello, YouTube. What do you mean you're not eating kimchi every day? I think you know it's good for you. You've heard that from other people, or you've seen it in articles and such, especially if you're into nutrition and all of that. But you're not eating it every day. I have some ideas of why that might be. So I'm going to go over the reasons why maybe you should give it a try. First of all, maybe one of the reasons is it's kind of expensive and it would be a gamble for you. I just went on the internet and checked some prices, even on Amazon, and then at some local stores near me. It ranges in price from over $6 a pound all the way up to the most expensive one I found was the brand Wild Brine. Now, we have bought wild brine sauerkraut from our local natural grocers, and it's excellent. It is so good. But their kimchi is about over $14 a pound, and that was buying a rather large quantity of it. So I don't know what a single container of it might cost. Now, Sprouts has a brand that's the very same brand of the special chili powder that I use, that we all use when we make kimchi. So it's mother-in-law's brand, and that was $8 a pound. So that's okay. That's an okay experiment to try. The second reason you might not have tried it, or may have tried it long ago like I did and then never touched it again, was because you found it too spicy. Now, I don't really like spicy hot food. Even sometimes salsas that are labeled mild, I find too spicy for me. So, if that's one of your reasons, then I'm going to talk to you about doing it at home, and that way you can control the spice. You can also totally control the flavor too, leaving out or adding flavoring things like garlic and ginger to the extent that you want to, and especially the spice, the red spice, not the Dune spice, the red spice. You can add that to your taste once you get some experience. Now, I went back through my notebook. I have a special 3-ring binder for kimchi with my notes and my original recipes and stuff, and from whom I learned to make it. And I will put the links below in the comment or in the info box to the 2 YouTube channels, the 2 sweet young women that I learned how to make kimchi from. And her quote is on this first slide here. One of them, Modern Pepper is her name, and she frequently, as she's going through the process of making it, she says, so good. It's so good, and it really is. And I'm so sorry that I waited decades to try making it myself in order to try it again. So these 3 pictures here that you can see on this first, this is just a PowerPoint thing I did so I could screen share all these pictures. Here, the first one has the flavor, let's call them the flavoring vegetables. It's a simple mix of radishes, carrots, green onions or scallions, all shredded up or chopped up to about the same degree. That way they'll all ferment at about the same rate, we hope. The second picture shows all of those flavoring vegetables with what I call the gravy. It's made from rice flour, which you thicken in water, and then you add in your chopped fresh garlic, your chopped ginger, and then most importantly, the Korean chili powder, chili flakes. And then here it is all mixed. And I have a picture of the bowl. It's a very large stainless bowl I use. You could use glass or plastic or whatever. And here it is all mixed, waiting for the chopped Napa cabbage that's been brined for 24 hours. And then that will all get mixed together. And over the course of, I've been making it for just over 2 years, and I went through my notebook and I counted, and the batch that I just finished this past week finished making is now in the fridge waiting to age, is my 33rd batch. So over that time, I've learned that I didn't really, so I cut back on the red spice a little bit and whatever. So you'll learn too as you go batch after batch. So, and here's our next slide. These are the first thing that the most important thing you'll need is a big jar that will be brining your Napa cabbage in. So you'll cut that in fourths, put it in there, and I usually use almost a gallon of brine. So this is a really big pork rind container that's now a kimchi jar. Well, it's a brining jar. I don't put the kimchi in it to age or anything. And then here, the next thing is some way to shred your vegetables, because you're going to be shredding up a couple of pounds of these flavoring vegetables. So you're not going to really want to be matchsticking radish after radish after radish, or maybe you will. I find that it takes me to, my cabbage is already brined, but when I start making the spice gravy and getting all the veggies ready, before I mix it all together, I'm mixing it all together and packing it in the fermenting container. That takes me about an hour and a half. So it isn't a short, it's not a short process, but most of the work is in the waiting, at least a week. I leave it only a week, and then we start on that batch. So you'll need a big mixing bowl, and this is my backup shredder, which I bought. You can see the thrift store price on it of just under $5. I bought that just in case mine broke or something. But see, this one's made out of plastic, so that's actually more apt to break. But I've had this for more than 30 years, I'd say. Anyhow, so those are the simple tools, and I just put the ruler in there for scale so you can see this is a pretty big bowl. That's 12. This is probably 14 inches, 12 to 14 inch across bowl, so good size. Here is an illustrated recipe that I did for a friend of mine 2 years ago. She knows who she is because her birthday was yesterday. And I never did hear back from her whether she made kimchi. She told me that one of her daughters had told her, it'd be a very good idea if you'd start eating this fermented food. I said, cool, because I just started making kimchi a 3 months ago. And I'll give you my recipe. So I sat down and I illustrated it out, because it's very difficult if you've ever gone to YouTube and found a really good recipe you like, and yeah, you take your notes on it, but it's just so lovely to watch the person that's doing it making the recipe, but you cannot keep going and referring to a video, stopping it, skipping it, trying to find this, that, the other. So I thought just to have it on a few sheets of paper would make it really convenient. Go, oh, now what am I doing? How do I do this? Blah, blah, blah. So I did this out, and after I had this all done, this was Modern Pepper's version, and she uses she leaves it in the quarters, and then she puts the spice, and you'll see if you watch the video, and I'll try and remember to put a link to the exact video. You have to pack it between each leaf, and then you roll it up, and she pats it like it's a baby, and puts it in the jar, or she uses a snap lid low kind of rectangular container, and she pushes it down. And so her sauce, her salty, spicy sauce, like you see, that's kind of floating up here, is coming up over the top of these rolls. And so I did that the very first time, and it was too much work. I didn't care for it. So then I found the second lady's recipe for simple. She called it simple, I guess, wherein she chops it to begin with and mixes it with all the spice mix and the gravy and the flavoring vegetables. And so I found that to be much easier. And so that's what I've done ever since. And here is a picture of my 33rd batch since January of 2023. sitting in there, and it'll be ready next Wednesday. I can't wait because my current batch is almost gone. But you can see that it has some weight on the top. That's to keep everything, and it has some, let's say, solid sheets, like an entire leaf like this of cabbage over the top to keep everything down and from floating up, because that's what some of the little shreds are going to want to do. They're going to want to float up out of this lovely liquid. You want them down in there because you want them all fermenting. So this is the kind of container that I have. It's tall, it's narrow, it takes up very little space in the fridge, which is always so crowded anyway. So I appreciate that. And so the basic ingredients, this is the spice. I wrote it out, Gochugaru red pepper flakes. This just happens to be the brand that my husband found at the close grocery store to us at a Tom Thumb. And the simple ingredients: Napa cabbage, radishes, carrots, scallions, fresh ginger, fresh garlic, and then the spice mixture, which I've kind of modified it. Were some other complicating ingredients or techniques that I just kind of cut out from the book that I got an original recipe from. So I just use soy sauce and fish sauce in equal proportions. And I have gotten to the habit now, and I see I'm almost 12 minutes. Oh my gosh. I've gotten into the habit of making extra gravy. I like double the amount that any recipe would say you need. So I start with 6 ounces of water instead of the 3 that I originally started doing. And then I was having a hard time getting that covered with a liquid. So I doubled what I call gravy, and it works out really well for me. So obviously you would put these veggies to the proportions you like. I happen to like radishes and scallions, so I put a lot more of those than carrots. But the other thing is you can do it to the visual effect that you like. Sometimes a batch will not have enough onion in it. And I can tell that because I don't see enough green tops in it. And I go, okay, next time I'm going to put 2 bunches in, or a bunch and a half, or whatever. And I do the visual also now with the chili powder. If I get it, I try to go a little light on the chili flakes because it can get spicy. Even though this is not like cayenne, who doesn't like hot food, can actually lick my finger, taste the dry stuff and not go, I need some water or whatever. It has more flavor than heat, but it's got heat too. So try it to a certain amount, and then if that turns out too hot for you, and it will get hot as time goes by. If you take several weeks to finish your batch, by the end you will find it's a lot spicier than it was when you started it at the 7-day mark. So you'll just start cutting back. And one of the things I've been doing these last few batches is, I guess I'm to my last slide there, is I go by color. If I look at it in the bowl, the mixing bowl, when it's all in there, if I'm looking at that and it doesn't, after the cabbage is in, remember the cabbage isn't in here. If it's not red enough, or orange red enough, I will go and I will sprinkle some more of the pepper on to it until it gets visually the way I know I like it. So, but that's all. And I did some average pricing here. If you can find, now my husband finds that at Walmart they sell the Napa cabbage, hopefully, knock on wood, pray to God, by the head, not by the pound. So I say, get the biggest one. And he's gotten one that's like 4.5 pounds one time. They're usually about 3 to 3.5 pounds for like just under $4 typically. Other stores will sell it by the pound. It's going to be a lot more expensive that way. So your Napa cabbage is your biggest expense. I said $4 to $6, so that averages $5. Radishes, $1.50. Carrots and ginger about $1. Scallions about $1 a bunch. Garlic, and then garlic virtually nothing. I said $0.25. I mean, it's like it's one, what do you call it? One clove, maybe two. You'll find if you want more garlic, you put a little more garlic in. That's another one of the things you're going to vary. And then the spice, I said 50 cents to $1. So the one jar is $4 to $5, and that'll last you a number of batches. So all in all, I said about $8.50 for 4 to 4.5 pounds. So that's about $2 to $2.25 per pound, compared to the cheapest that you can buy at the grocery store, $6, $7, $8 a pound, to $14, $15, $16 a pound. Now, in my opinion, since I can control the heat, the flavor, some of them put sugar in there. I'm not putting sugar in it. Some of them put sesame seeds in there. I'm not doing that. With all the control I get and the ability to adjust the spiciness and the flavor and just the kind of the joy in doing something yourself, homemade, it is just so worth it. I cannot recommend you try it at least once. And I'll give you, like I said, the 2 YouTube channels with their recipes. And I would say go with the chopped version first. Watch Modern Pepper. She's adorable. But the other gal is just as adorable. It'll be a difficult contest between them for who's the most adorable. So watch both their videos and then get to the store and get your ingredients, gather your containers, and make yourself a batch of kimchi. You don't have any more excuses now. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time, hopefully.